Spooktober's here, and with every dusk, Eerie Instants unveils a new tale. 31 days, 31 stories. Hit subscribe and journey into the unknown with us. The town was alive with the spirit of Halloween. Everywhere I looked, there were children laughing in their costumes, houses decked out in festive orange and black, and the unmistakable scent of autumn in the air. But amidst the joy and laughter, there was an undercurrent of tension, a whisper of something darker. I wandered the streets, my mind preoccupied. I wasn't interested in the festivities. I was searching for something. A story, a legend, something to sate my ever-growing curiosity about the supernatural. That's when I stumbled upon Mrs. Wren. She was an old town fixture, known for her tales of the supernatural. Today, she was surrounded by a group of children, her voice weaving a tale that had them all entranced. And every Halloween, she was saying, the Shadowman appears, dancing in the moonlit clearing. But be warned, children, for if you look into his eyes, you'll be lost to the shadow realm forever. The children gasped, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement, but I felt a pull, an irresistible urge to know more. As the children dispersed, I approached Mrs. Wren. "That story about the Shadowman," I began. "Is it true?" She eyed me warily, her old eyes sharp and assessing. "You're Alex, aren't you? The boy with the penchant for the unknown." I nodded, waiting for her to continue. "The legend of the Shadowman is old, older than this town. And every legend," she paused, "has a kernel of truth." She told me about the clearing in the woods, the place where the Shadowman was said to appear. "But remember," she warned, "some things are better left undiscovered." I thanked her and turned to leave, but something felt off. The setting sun cast long shadows on the ground, but mine. It seemed to stretch and distort in ways that defied logic. Shaking off the unease, I made up my mind. Tonight, I would visit the clearing. I needed to see for myself if the legend was true. As night fell, I prepared for my adventure. I remembered a talisman I had, said to protect against dark forces. It might be superstitious, but tonight, I wasn't taking any chances. The woods awaited, and with a mix of excitement and trepidation, I stepped into the unknown, drawn to the legend of the Shadowman. The woods seemed denser than I remembered. Every rustling leaf and distant hoot of an owl echoed in the silence, amplifying my unease. I tried to shake off the feeling, reminding myself that I was here out of curiosity, not superstition. The legend of the Shadowman was just that, a legend, and I was going to debunk it. As I ventured deeper, the trees seemed to close in around me, their branches casting eerie, dancing shadows in the moonlight. The path, which had been clear at the start, now seemed to twist and turn unpredictably. But I pressed on, driven by a mix of determination and the thrill of the unknown. After what felt like hours, the trees began to thin, revealing the moonlit clearing Mrs. Wren had spoken of. It was eerily beautiful, bathed in a silvery glow. In the center stood an ancient-looking stone, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to shimmer and shift as I looked at them. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. The clearing was silent, save for the gentle rustling of leaves in the wind. I approached the stone, reaching out to touch the cold, rough surface. The symbols were unfamiliar, but one in particular, a spiral with an eye in the center, seemed to pulse under my fingers. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The wind picked up, sending a chill down my spine. The shadows at the edge of the clearing began to move, swirling and dancing as if alive. I stepped back, my heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't just a legend. It was real. From the midst of the swirling shadows, a darker figure began to emerge. Tall and imposing, the Shadowman stood at the edge of the clearing, his form almost fluid, constantly shifting and changing. He didn't speak, but his intent was clear. He wanted me. I tried to move, to run, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. Panic surged through me. I remembered the talisman I'd brought, a small silver pendant I'd found among my late grandmother's belongings. Clutching it tightly in my hand, I willed it to protect me. The Shadowman hesitated, his form flickering as if disturbed by the talisman's presence. But he didn't retreat. Instead, he beckoned me closer, his movements graceful and hypnotic. I fought the urge to step forward, to look into the void where his eyes should be. The standoff felt like an eternity. Every second was a battle of wills. The Shadowman's pull against the protective force of the talisman. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The shadows retreated. The wind died down, and the Shadowman vanished. I was alone in the clearing, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on me. But I wasn't safe. Not yet. I needed to get out of these woods and put as much distance between me and the clearing as possible. With the talisman still clutched in my hand, I turned and ran, not looking back. The path out of the woods seemed longer and more twisted than before. Every shadow seemed to reach out. Every whisper of the wind sounded like a soft, mocking laughter. The talisman's weight in my hand was the only reassurance that I wasn't completely lost. As the first hints of dawn began to light the horizon, I finally emerged from the woods, gasping for breath. The town was still, the festive decorations from the night before now, seeming garish and out of place in the cold light of day. I made my way home, the events of the night playing over and over in my mind. The Shadowman, the talisman, the eerie clearing. It all felt like a nightmare, but the weight of the pendant in my pocket and the rawness in my throat from running told me it was all too real. Days turned into weeks, and the terror of that night began to fade. The town moved on, the whispers about the Shadowman becoming just another legend among many. But I couldn't forget. Every shadow, every flicker of movement in the corner of my eye reminded me of the Shadowman and the price of my curiosity. One evening, as I sat in my room, the setting sun casting long shadows on the walls, I noticed something. My shadow, which had always been a constant companion, was missing. I searched for it, moving from room to room, but it was nowhere to be found. Panic set in. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The Shadowman had taken something from me that night in the clearing. My very essence, my shadow, was now trapped in his realm. The days grew darker, both literally and figuratively. Without a shadow, I felt incomplete, a part of me forever lost. The townspeople began to notice, whispering behind my back, avoiding me in the streets. I became a pariah, a living reminder of the dangers of the unknown. And then, one fateful night, a year after my encounter with the Shadowman, I found myself drawn back to the clearing. The pull was irresistible, the need to reclaim my shadow overwhelming. As I stepped into the clearing, the Shadowman was waiting. This time, there was no standoff, no battle of wills. He simply beckoned, and I followed, stepping into the shadows and leaving the world of the living behind. The town mourned my disappearance, another victim of the Shadowman's curse. But as the years went by, my story became just another legend, a cautionary tale told on Halloween nights. And the cycle continued, the Shadowman always waiting, always hungry for the next curious soul to wander into his realm.